Welcome to the Concierge Medical Marketing Podcast, the show dedicated to helping concierge medical practices grow and thrive. Hosted by Schwartz, a digital marketing expert with over 25 years of experience and a passion for improving American healthcare by helping concierge medical physicians succeed. Here's Schwartz.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Concierge Medical Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Schwartz, and it's my pleasure to have you along today. Today, my guest is Stephen Sharp. He is a systems administrator for PDGo Digital Marketing. Stephen, thanks for being with me today.
Thanks. How's it going?
Yeah, really good. Just thank you for taking the time to share your knowledge with our audience. We have a great show lined up for this podcast today. Stephen, you are so smart in so many areas. And as we were talking before the show on the topic of cybersecurity, and this is in the news, this is a topic that business owners have become increasingly concerned about with regards to the safety and security of their devices, their computer networks, their smartphones, social media, even something that's TikTok. I mean, there's been so many things related to cybersecurity, and I'm so glad you came on the show today that we can get into a nice discussion about topics related to cybersecurity that concierge medical practices need to be aware of in order to help protect their businesses as much as possible. Are you ready to talk about this?
Ready, let's do it.
All right, good. So tell me a little bit more about what got you interested in the topic of cybersecurity.
Well, great question. So to start off, as you mentioned, I'm a system administrator. I'm an admin for PDGo Digital Marketing. I've been working here for 8 years, if you can believe it, as of this Saturday. So I've been blessed to be able to work here with a great group of people. Well, before I actually worked for PDGo Digital Marketing, though, I saw some things that I thought were some interesting trends in myself and as well as the job market in general. So I was looking to figure out what I was interested in specifically. When it comes to IT, I knew that I enjoyed IT. I knew that I was pretty technically inclined, not a programmer or anything by that stretch of the imagination, but I knew that I enjoyed it. And so I also knew that I liked puzzles. Well, I also saw that when it came to the job market, there was this weird trend that was going on where the cybersecurity job market, they were needing more people as time was progressing, but there was either less people or the same amount of people. So it was not going to match up, and it was only getting worse, so that it was just getting farther and farther away. It's like, well, this is something that I already enjoy, and cybersecurity is basically just working on one big puzzle at a time. So to me, it was like, okay, this makes sense. So that's kind of what got me interested in it.
Yeah, it's a huge industry, and unfortunately, with it seems like in the news just about every day or two, you hear about some major data breach, and X number of millions of records have been exposed, and now you get a free what is it, monitoring your credit or whatever, for
that's
a year was
favorite one.
Exactly. And it's like every single day or, every week, definitely you're hearing of some major breach. And that is frightening when you think about all the private information that we as consumers have on the internet. And then it obviously goes to a whole nother level when you're talking about private medical information that physicians need to keep very confidential. So tell me, what are some unique cybersecurity challenges that concierge medical practices face compared to traditional medical practices?
That's another good question. So here in general, when we talk about the healthcare industry, you've got some unique challenges in and of itself. So you have HIPAA data that you have to manage, but then also you have compliance, and these two things are not the same thing. So when it comes to like a breach, you have a certain amount of time period that you actually have to disclose these sorts of things. And there's all sorts of legal things that you have to deal with when it comes to being a working in the medical field. So when it comes to concierge medical in general, I think one of the problems is you might not end up with the big budgets that some of these larger hospitals or larger insurance networks might have. And so that might make you think that you can cut that from your budget, but if anything, you need it even more. So I think that's kind of a unique challenge that you're sort of having to make more with less in that particular industry.
And that's true. I mean, obviously, the bigger hospital networks have bigger budgets to protect their business. Smaller businesses, have obviously typically smaller budgets. And with that, you need to make the money that you do have stretch to cover everything you need. And unfortunately, cybersecurity is one area where people, shortchange it because they need to take care of other things more importantly, like, payroll and their malpractice insurance premiums and the rent and the air conditioning bill and the internet. So, you think, I could not pay this extra money for proper cybersecurity. And then, unfortunately, if a business gets hit, realizing that they made a mistake on where those funds were allocated, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, that is one thing that you really can't cut. You can cost optimize, but you can't cut out the security in general. And, you might even think, okay, well, I'm paying for an MSP, so a managed service provider. I'm paying for an MSP to handle things for me. Well, I mean, there are certain things like establishing a culture of cybersecurity in your organization that they simply can't handle for you. You actually have to be, on guard yourself.
Exactly. Well, let me ask you, what measures can concierge medical practices take to safeguard their businesses against cyber attacks?
Well, I would say one of the things that unfortunately some people don't really care for, they think it's just another checkbox to knock out, maybe for compliance or, if you're working for an organization. But security awareness training, I think that's one of the things where you're going to get your best bang for your buck. And that goes back to the cost optimization thing, is that security, the people in your organization are going to be the weakest links. Us cybersecurity people, we like to think of things as like it's a race against time against the hackers in North Korea, and we're going against nation state actors and we're battling them, and it's a battle of equals. It's nothing like that in general. It's Bob over in accounting clicked a link that said they were going to get 20 extra days paid time off if they click the link and download this and run it. We actually did security awareness training here at PDGo, and one of the things that was brought up was a guy in the training. A guy had got himself in a little bit of trouble. And he was nervous, and so because he was nervous about this message that he got, he was able to be coerced into downloading and installing malware that ransomed the entire organization.
Oh no.
And it cost him, and it cost them $500,000 in order to pay for it, right? Because ransomware is one of those things where they actually sometimes they will pay for their data, which is kind of sad, but it's a thing that happens. So $500,000 because I don't have his name, but let's just say Bob in accounting clicked and ran something.
If we knew their name, we wouldn't share it here anyways.
No, and hopefully the security awareness training wouldn't share it with us either. But exactly. So.
Okay, well, cool. Why is cybersecurity particularly critical in the healthcare sector?
I think so. You've got a sort of triple whammy, and that triple whammy is you have data that everyone, I have data, like here at home, I have data on my computer, data on my NAS. I have data, and some of that data I've spent a lot of time building, working on documents, programs, all this sorts of stuff. You think about the many, many hours that you put into that data. there's a lot of time value with it. Well, it's not just data though. You also have compliance you have to worry about. And these are not the same thing, as I mentioned. And then you also have the health of your patients that you have to worry about. So, for example, when you see a healthcare organization get ransomed, it can actually impact people's health because they're, in the midst of administering things to their patients and they need that information. They might have backups, or hopefully they have backups. There's a saying, there are those two kinds of people, those who have backups and those who will have backups. And so hopefully they have backups, but maybe they don't, or maybe they're going to paper. Some people have to do that, but it's going to impact people's health. And so these multiple things going on at the same time, it gives a threat actor a good leverage to go after you for. So they can go after you for the fact of the data or the health of the patients or your compliance. Let's say they got in because you weren't being fully compliant. Well, now you're not just talking about paying the threat actor for to get the key due to ransomware. You're also talking about the government or regulatory organizations breathing down your neck, and so they could also threaten you with that, releasing that information. So there's a lot of points that they can use against you that may or may not exist in other industries.
Sounds like a very significant threat to concierge medical practices. Are there any other potential consequences of such an attack that you want to share today?
Yeah, I think ransomware in general has to be on your radar, and that's for everyone. But I think it's got to be on your radar, especially if you're in a medical practice, and definitely concierge medical practices, whatever your medical practice is. According to Jericho Security, healthcare is the most targeted sector for phishing. So let's just be realistic. Where are you? Where is the threat going to be? It's going to be phishing, probably for you. Who is it going to be? It's probably going to be someone in your organization who clicks a link or takes a phone call or something. So yeah, that's just something that has to be on your radar. We talk about what do you think the threat vector is going to be? Well, hopefully you're thinking about that.
So phishing is, you would say, is number one as the most typical or common vector of getting into someone's systems through the human network?
According to Jericho Security, 70% of all healthcare breaches are attributed to phishing attacks. So yeah,
wow,
that's most likely going to be it.
Yeah, that's significant. That's a huge number.
Yeah, and if your mouth dropped like mine did when I heard $500,000
sure.
From our vendor, just wait till you hear the average for healthcare, $9 million per incident.
Man.
So if you don't think that you have the money for that awareness training, I think you just found it.
Exactly. You're going to make it work.
Yeah.
What else can be done to mitigate this risk?
Backups.
Let's dig into that a little bit more. You can say backups, and someone says, "Oh, I backup stuff to external hard drive on my desk." Whatever. There's also online backup services. What would you recommend to a practice, let's say a concierge practice with maybe 3 to 5 physicians, one location? What would you recommend that they do to help protect their data in case it was hit with a ransomware attack?
Well, I'll give you a principle, and that is that if the ransomware attack is successful and gets onto your computer, it should not be able to also get onto your backups. So it should not be able to encrypt your backups. So you could be using a NAS like I do, or we do.
Can you explain what a NAS is to our audience?
Yeah, it's a network attached storage. It's like a mini server. So, and particularly for files, also, although they've sort of grown into the home server space. But yeah, it's like a little mini server, and they're fine. If you have that somewhere remotely where it's not on the same network, it's isolated from the network, and then it reaches out and grabs the data at the right time from your computers, but there should not be that back connection where the computers can decide to reach back out to it. So it should be a one-way thing, and it should be able to scan the backups to make sure that there's nothing, no viruses, anything like that. And it should also create the backups to be immutable. It means that they can't be changed. So, or at least if they are changed, you should be able to know about it through hashes or something like that checks the integrity of those backups. So now, whether you use Acronis or your own NAS or something like that, having multiple backups, I think you'll find at one point in your life, you'll be glad that you have multiple, but at least have one.
For our physicians and office managers who are watching this podcast, if they want to set up a NAS and these type of backups, is this something that they can realistically do themselves, or is it more likely pay an IT professional in their area to come out, set it up? And if so, what would they expect as the ballpark investment for doing this?
Well, it's going to depend on how much data that you're going to end up backing up. So that's really going to change from organization to organization. But, a typical Synology NAS, which if you're doing it yourself, you're probably going to go with Synology. I'm a big fan of TrueNAS, and you can get a NAS from them as well. But Synology is going to be a big one. That's going to run you, say $600 for the actual NAS itself. And then each hard drive is going to be another couple $100. And so it just really depends. But, you got to take a look at your computers. If you only have one or two computers that you need to back up, it might end up costing $1,000 or so. And if it doesn't cost you a whole lot, maybe you'll get a couple NAS so that you can have one over at this space and one over at this space to make sure that you do have those redundant backups.
Right. And what about offsite backups? Where the data would be automatically backed up to a cloud server somewhere?
Yeah, I'm all for that. If your finances allow at your organization, that's definitely a great thing. It would be great to have, both the cloud backup through whichever is compliant with HIPAA and willing to sign your BAA. That's great. So having multiple forms of backup is generally best practice.
Can you explain BAA? That's an acronym that some of our audience may not be aware of.
Yeah, so in the medical space, that's the business associate agreement. And basically, when it comes to HIPAA data and compliance, just because I sign a check over to you does not mean that I've also signed over responsibility to you. So that's the same whether you're talking about your HIPAA data going over to a backup vendor or, really anyone that's going to see that data. Just because they see that data does not mean that they've agreed to comply with HIPAA and take on that portion of your responsibility. So when you have a vendor that's going to manage your email or manage your backups, you're going to have to offload that compliance risk off to that person or that organization by getting them to sign that business associate agreement.
Right. So does that basically mean legally that if there was a breach of some sort, then the insurance of that vendor helps cover the cost of remediation as opposed to your medical practice?
That would be my understanding. Yep. You'd have to take a look at it yourself. I'm not fully versed in, say, the legal of healthcare, but yeah, that would be my understanding, is that you are now saying this portion, what I am giving you, whether it's my mail server or what, you have to also handle it in a HIPAA compliant fashion, whether that's encryption, definitely be encryption and all best practices. So you got to offload that.
So fascinating. So many intricacies here. I know you've been studying cybersecurity for the last several years. What has changed in cybersecurity literally in the last few years that you've been studying it?
Well, something that's, I'd say, exciting and also terrifying is AI. It gets hyped up for a lot of things that maybe it doesn't need to be hyped up for. It's going to take our jobs and all this and that. And it's like, someone asked me if I was afraid that AI was going to take cybersecurity jobs. I was like, if AI could somehow make every single computer out there secure magically, I'll give up the jobs. Like, that's fantastic. But because I don't think that's the reality we live in, I find it really interesting. I love playing around with AI myself through different like ChatGPT and other large language models. I love watching this particular space as it develops. But probably one of the first things that I thought when I saw this happen is we have a sort of interesting thing in cybersecurity, in securing our organizations. And that is, as I mentioned, phishing is a big deal. But a lot of phishing is just they send out that, the ones that we mock, the Nigerian prince type emails. And
he has a lot of money for me, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, the bad English emails that end up in spam and somehow we fall for it anyway. Or, all that sorts of stuff. Like, so that's been phishing in general, and it's still been effective. Then you have something that's called spear phishing. And that's where I, as a threat actor, am going to look at your particular situation. You are Steve Schwartz. You are, whoever you are. I find your name. I find out where you work. I find your phone number, your email. I find as much information as I can take in from breaches. That's another thing that you can get that data from. I'm going to get as much data as I can, and then I'm going to craft a persona of you, and I'm going to use that in order to target you specifically. It's a lot of work, but it's also very effective. And then you take that particular thing, and then you go after like really high level targets, like presidents, that sort of thing. It's called whaling. You're going for large targets. Well, the problem with this is that takes a lot of investment. That's a lot of time. And fundamentally, a lot of these, unless you're a nation state, a lot of these are businesses. I mean, they're looking for profit. They're looking for the most profit for the least amount of effort. So, they just can't spend all that sort of time on every single person doing spear phishing. So they do that general phishing. The problem then with AI is that what it could do is allow you to get all that data from breaches and about these people as much as you can, and then use AI to spear phish them. So that's been my concern.
My.
Yeah. So exactly, right? So now it sort of acts like you have that amount of time to go and know exactly, oh, you work in billing, oh, you do this, or and yeah. So, and there's very little time investment from the actual threat actor. So that's a concern of mine. But on the flip side, with technology, there's always a flip side. On the flip side, one thing I've gotten to use AI for, as we're at us at PDGO, we're a small organization. So what I'll do is I will take a alert that I get from Wazoo, which is a free SIM, security information and event management tool, which is a fantastic thing to have. If your organization doesn't have it, it should, probably yesterday. That gives you visibility into what's going on with your organization. You can take the alerts that you generate from that and you go, okay, well, something happened. Okay, well, this particular alert looks a little funny. All right, give that to an LLM. Tell me about this alert. What do I need to do? What are my next steps, right? For a small organization that might be budget constrained, that's a fantastic thing. Just tell me what I should do with that information. I might say, okay, well, take that IP address and go to abuse IPDB and then ask it what the reputation of that IP is, and then it might turn out to be nothing. But that's something that you'll want to take a look at, is using something like a SIM. But that's what I've been using AI for so far when it comes to like the cybersecurity space, as well as, summarize this article for what's happening in AI, what's happening in cybersecurity, what are the latest breaches, what are the latest trends. Trends is a big thing too that you want to pay attention to.
I could see you also capturing information from multiple articles on a particular topic dropping those into an AI tool like ChatGPT or something similar, and basically saying, take the information from these 5 articles on this topic and summarize it into a 500-word article that I can share with my concierge medical clients, something like that. And it pulls all this different information together into a single, quick, and somewhat easy to read summary that's actionable for the audience it's intended for, right? That's another,
Yeah.
I would say, great use of AI tools to help summarize these complex topics and make it easy to understand.
Right. And that's sort of a big thing, is when things are happening out there and you're hearing about them, like this breach, the national public breach or whichever breach, one of the questions you ask yourself is, what does this mean for me? And that's
Right.
something that AI can also help do is, okay, well, you're working in this particular space. What do I need to do about this information? Okay, well, it might say, check out, have I been pwned? See if your information was on that breach. No? Okay, you're good, right? So being able to advise you in these sorts of things where, let's be honest, a lot of people don't have a whole lot of time to investigate what's going on in this space.
I like the Have I Been Pwned service because it can run in the background and literally check the concierge medical practices emails every single day and scan the dark web or however it works behind the scenes, and then alert the physician, the owner, the practice manager, hey, this particular email in your business has an issue, and basically brings attention to it automatically, correct?
Right. And that's a great thing to bring up, is being proactive. So using a service like that will tell you, okay, well, we found your information in this breach. So now you need, instead of having to actually go there and putting in your email to check it, it can actually tell you. So yeah, that's a phenomenal resource. We use it personally. We love it. We recommend it.
And it can run in the background, so it's not like you have to think, oh, I have to check the web today and see if any of our team has been breached, right?
Right. So they have their own service where you subscribe to, you put in your emails, your team emails, or your whole domain, and ask it to alert you if there's been a breach related to emails on that domain. Conversely, you can also, if you have a little bit of programming background, you can also use their API in order to check passwords. Now, that's not something that you want to actually go out and provide password. Hey, yeah, can you please check my password to see if it's breached? Well, you put it online. It wasn't before you did that.
It is now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oops.
So, but what it'll do is there are cool tools out there that will hash the password. So that's generating a checksum of the password that makes a unique string, and then takes the first part of that string, sends it over to Have I Been Pwned, and Have I Been Pwned sends back, oh yeah, I've seen these that start with that. And then your own computer can take a look and go, oh yeah, it's right there. Change your password. So
this has been so interesting. And do you have any final tips to share with our audience? Anything actionable? Anything to look out for? What else can you share?
Yeah, I would say something worthwhile, and this goes for concierge medical organizations. If you can, join your local or join your ISAC. So that's basically an organization that's going to go ahead and find out what's going on in this particular, like if it's healthcare, if that's your healthcare ISAC, then those in those industries can share information amongst each other about what's going on. So that's very helpful to know if healthcare is starting to get an uptick in attacks. And it's good to know that before other people know that. So that would be an important thing. Another thing that I would say is just, establish a culture of security in your organization. We mentioned the whole, dollars to What's the cost optimized way of protecting your organization? One thing is just to have that sort of culture of security. If someone has a question about an email, you don't mock them for asking about it, because they could have clicked it and that could have been your $500,000 that just went to some ransomware organization. So, and resource your cybersecurity team. If that's just your IT team, make sure that they know that they've got everything that they need in order to succeed. That's what I'd say.
Love it. Stephen Sharp, thank you so much for taking your time today, sharing your knowledge and giving so many great actionable items for our concierge medical practice physicians and office managers to be able to help protect their organization. Our doctors go through med school and residency, and they maybe borrow a lot of money to start a practice and find the right staff and do all this work and all this investment, all this time, only to potentially get hit with a huge, expensive ransomware attack that you had no control of because somebody who's working at your front desk clicked an email, right?
Yep.
So I encourage all of our audience members listening here, please speak with a quality cybersecurity IT professional in your area. Have them come and do an audit of your systems. Have them come and look for holes that could be able or places where bad guys, the threat vectors can come in and literally do immeasurable, exceedingly expensive and very stressful damage on your business. So please reach out to an IT professional in your area who knows cybersecurity and have them do an audit of your system to be sure that where you are now is as secure as you can reasonably be, and that you implement solutions and monitoring and everything that's recommended so that going forward, you're as secure as you can be. This has been the Concierge Medical Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Schwartz. Stephen Sharp, thank you for taking your time to be with us today.
Thanks, Stephen. Best of luck with everything.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. Have a great day. We'll see you all in the next episode.
Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to the Concierge Medical Marketing Podcast. Please subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts, and stay connected with us on social media. To speak with Stephen Schwartz about growing your concierge medical practice, give him a call at
772-304-2420
or visit our website at conciergemd.marketing. We will see you next time.